exposure's all naked, isn't it?
My name is Andy Hornby, photographer and vlogger. 17 years ago I started teaching myself photography. Today I travel the UK as a professional wedding photographer, landscape photographer and filmmaker. Learn from my experiences, my mistakes and my tips and advice.
I lose my breath whenever I see you. You stole my heart, what is it that you do? My life was great till you added colors. Like the moon needs the sun, we don't care about the others. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You said
Okay, welcome to a new video. Today we're talking about filters and ND filters, what ND filters are and how you can use them to get the best out of your photography. As you can see, I'm actually on a photo walk. See you later, Anna. We're down at Eastney Pier, which is really hard to get to and people struggle to find the place actually, but it's actually quite beautiful, and sun rises this time of year in a perfect position just along the end of the pier between the two bleachers you see there, which were the old war bleachers, which I believe were like landing platforms for boats and stuff like that in the area. And the reasons why I'm down here today with my filters is because I'm shooting into the sun for a start. Why are filters so important? And actually traditionally filters were created for videographers, so for video like you're seeing me on at the moment. I've actually got a filter on the front of my camera. And the reasons why I've got a filter is so that I can leave my shutter speed has to be constant at 1/50 of a second, because it's double my frame rate. The frame rate of my video that you're watching is going to be about 24 to 25 frames a second, so I have to double my frame rate for video, so I can only shoot at 1/50th of a second. That cannot be manipulated like we do with photography to get a picture. With video that has to stay constant. I also want to get a nice blurred effect behind me, so if you see behind me I'm in focus but everything else behind me is slightly blurred. That's because I'm using the best aperture I've got, which is f4 on this lens. If it was any of my other lenses, I'd be probably stopped down to maybe f1.8, maybe 2.8. Because I want to get a nice blurry background, because like a portrait picture, this video of me, I want me in focus and everything else around me to be slightly out of focus, so it focuses on me, excuse the pun. I'm in focus for a reason, because I should be the focus of this video. Same as a portrait picture, the background I'm always want to go out of focus, so I'm going to keep my aperture constant as well. So the only thing I can work with in video is my ISO, and I don't want to lighten this scene up any more than it already is, because we're kind of shooting into the sun. The only thing I can potentially do to stop down the light is put a filter on front of my camera. Now there's a few filters that you could potentially use, and these are called ND filters, neutral density filters. I currently use a variable ND filter for my video because it makes it easier for me to, if I'm going to do any pan and tilt shots of this scene for instance, the camera is going to see a very different picture to point it at the sun and then pan it round to point it away from the sun. And if I've got an ND filter that's not variable, I can't change that exposure in camera because I can't manipulate anything other than my ISO. So with a variable ND filter I can actually change the amount of light that's coming into the lens as I pan around, which makes it really simple. Variable ND filters are really good. But the other thing about variable ND filters as well, when you darken it down too much, you get a kind of cross section of light. So you miss, it's like a weird vignette almost, but it's like a cross section of light through the centre of your picture, and that makes it really difficult to edit afterwards. I did a time lapse of the 360 viewing platform in Brighton a few years ago, and the only filter I had at the time was my variable, and I put that on and got some pictures and got back and realised I had a lot of work to do because I had dark areas where I didn't want dark areas. The cross section of light through the picture was really hard to edit. So variable ND filters are awesome for video, but I don't use this one for pictures. I just don't see a point. Of course I can't actually show you my variable ND filter because it's currently on this lens, but if I move this like this, it should give you an idea. There's darker of what a variable ND filter can do. Hopefully that's back to normal. This is your basic 10 stop ND filter. Actually this professes to be a 10 stop. It's not a 10 stop. I did some work with it when I first got it and realised all my pictures were coming out too dark and wondered why. So I've done some testing with this and I get about 13.5 stops of light out of this, which is quite incredible really, and that makes it quite awesome actually, because the whole idea of having this is to slow down my shutter speed so I can get long exposures. Long exposure photography is what these things are mainly used for landscapes. The reasons why I can do that is because this, if I put that over there, it goes dark, but this is designed to trick your camera into thinking that it's darker out than it already is. And that's pretty much it. And what we can do with that, in fact, with stills, is actually manipulate our shutter speed to compensate. Because all we're doing here is fooling our camera to think it's darker than it already is outside. You generally won't need one of these at night because it's already dark. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. I'm trying to simplify it for you, that, you know, there's a whole scientific mathematical equations that go along with these things, but there are also some apps that make it really simple too. But the basic function for landscape photography with these things is to do long exposure stuff, and I do a lot of long exposure stuff. I do a workshop which I absolutely love, and the reasons why I like and actually love long exposure photography is because it makes my pictures look different to everybody else's. You know, everyone's taking pictures of exactly the same thing around here. Things like the Spinnaker Tower, it's been shot by millions of people, but just by doing a long exposure shot of the same thing, you make it your own and make it something different. That's what my photography is about. So I love working with ND filters. I don't shoot during the day. Most of you know this from if you've watched any of my videos. I don't like shooting during the day, but I will if I'm using these to make long exposure photography possible during the day. You can stack these. This is a 10 stop, or professes to be a 10 stop. I also have a 6 stop in there as well. There are other types of filters that you can get, the slot in ones that go on like a frame on the front of your lens, which I don't use. I've used them in the past but don't get on with them too well anymore because I dropped them and lost them and stuff like that. But with the screw-in ones you can actually stack them, so you can put more than one in front of the other, which is awesome. You can create some really good artwork out of your camera just by doing that. So there is a science and maths behind long exposure photography and using filters and stuff like that, which I'm not going to go into on here, but the idea is for the amount of light that you stop down in your camera, you need to compensate for that, and there are apps out there that do it really simply. I've got a video on the apps I use and actually cover this in the video, so if you have a look up there you'll see a little link to that video I'll put up there. Grab yourself some filters, doesn't matter what kind of filters they are, and have a play around. ND filters are, for me, in my bag all the time. I don't go out without my ND filters. I do, but then I go home and get them because I know they're always going to be handy to have. And like I say, ND filters were designed for video, but actually for stills and for photography, you can create some really nice artwork out of these. I've done a blog on my website and that explains a few other ways and means that you can use filters in your photography. Have a look at that. I'll link that in the description as well. So that blog is on my website, worth a read. I go into a lot more depth. The sun's coming out now, that's going to completely ruin my exposure unless I stand in front of it. I go into a lot more depth about what ND filters can do for you, so have a read of that, and if you've got any questions, either leave them in the blog on my website, or certainly leave a comment down below. Always going to answer questions, happy to help where I can. Have a look on my website, leave a comment down in the video down here, and I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a very quick one, but a very important one too. ND filters are always in my bag and they're always going to be important to me, so have a look, get yourself out there, start doing some long exposure photography. Show me some of your work if you want to as well. Get onto my workshop group on Facebook and show us some of your pictures of your long exposure stuff. And if you need any critique, always ask me. I'm always happy to critique other people's work. If you got anything out of this video, please whack a thumbs up as always, That always helps me. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get updates every time I upload a new video. A lot more videos coming out. Have a good one, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.